all, Alex here with Wisconsin Computer Club, and welcome back to the shop. Today I am starting a big, long countdown series between now and March 1st, when EverCon is going to be taking over the big convention center there in Rothschild, which the name of which I cannot remember. It used to be the Patriot Center. I think it's like the Central Wisconsin Convention Center, Expo Center. I don't remember offhand. I should have looked that up before I started recording, but we're good to go anyway. So I'm going to be looking at some of the machines that are going to actually be featured there in our lineup. So at the EverCon show, there is a huge section called the Video Game Museum, and there are a ton of video games in there. Like pretty much everything that can be rolled out is going to be rolled out there. There's a ton of turbo stuff, there's a ton of modern stuff, there's a ton of retro stuff, and a absolute bucket of vintage computer equipment is going to be on display, so you guys can go in and interact with it. Now, when I say display, I don't mean like it's behind glass and you go to the museum. No. We want you to sit down and play this stuff and experience it and really get to know this stuff. And what better place to start than with one of the most iconic machines of them all, the venerable Commodore 64. Released in 1982, the Commodore 64 is the best-selling single computer model of all time. This thing sold like 17 or 18 million units. There are still new chips being produced for these things now, so new ones are trickling in still today through the hobbyist scene. And it is all around a really good little 8-bit computer. It has 64 kilobytes of memory. It has really good graphic capabilities for the time, great sound system for the time, and it was inexpensive, so pretty much everybody had one. So all the game developers piled on to try and make stuff for the 64 to make some money. So I'm going to set it up here, hook it up probably to this one here, and I'm going to show you generally what it would look like at our setup, how it's probably going to look like at the actual show, and the game is probably going to be running. So one moment, and I will show that for you right now. All right, apologies for kind of the odd framing. We got a cord situation here that necessitates things be a little bit unusual, but I just want to show you here, this is Commodore 64. We're just going to unplug the cart, so we'll get it loaded up normally. There we go. So Commodore 64 Basic V2. The Commodore 64 is, of course, an 8-bit computer. It has this very simple, basic input-output language, so you can run your programs and that sort of thing through it, but it doesn't have an operating system like we would understand today, not like a DOS or an operating environment like Windows or anything like that. This is an early computer from the early 80s, and so, of course, it has some limitations there, but that still doesn't limit it at all when it comes to games. This thing has a lot of power under the hood that people were able to basically start making games right off the bat with this thing. And so this is kind of the iconic boot screen, the blue on blue. It's a little bit fuzzy here, but yeah, it'll be pretty cool at the show there, I'm thinking. We didn't actually bring a Commodore 64 to EverCon in 2023. Should have, I think. We ran the Commodore 128 instead, which is this thing's big brother. We had David Murray's excellent Attack of the Petsky Robots on there, but Petsky Robots is not the kind of game you can just jump in and play, as it's kind of a long-form puzzle action game. Very good game, but probably not the best for our applications there. So I'm going to show you probably what we usually do with this one, probably what it's going to look like when it's there on the EverCon Video Game Museum floor. Is we have a cartridge here. This thing did have games that came on cartridge. They also came on disc, cassette, all sorts of different ways to get games into this thing. And this is, assuming it loads, assuming I got it in straight. I didn't get it in straight. That's the problem with this one. It's slightly off center. There it is. All right. This is Avenger, and pretty much anybody who is familiar with video games from this era will know this is Space Invaders. But for my money, I think that this is the best version of Space Invaders for an 8-bit system. Obviously, when you start getting into your 16-bit systems, there are some better versions available, and I think the arcade is still, depending on the version of the arcade, some of the arcade versions are still probably a little bit better, but for a home version, this I feel is kind of the gold standard. This is the one to beat. And the way to beat it, I feel, is with the Wiko command stick. This is a fabulous old school joystick, and I pretty much bring this to all the shows. So we're gonna fire this thing up. F1, let's go. So I'm gonna go on in. And now I'm playing Space Invaders badly because I'm trying to see what I'm doing, plus make sure I'm still in frame. Well, yeah, okay, so I'm not doing very well, but you'll do better. So that is a quick look at the Commodore 64. If you're interested in this kind of computer, there are a ton of great documentaries out there. This thing has been very well covered from a historical standpoint by all kinds of YouTubers out there who have a lot more variants of this thing to show off than I do. I just pretty much all had bread bins, but this came in a different case. They had a white version. They had an entire different set of games for Europe. Some mad lad figured out how to port Sonic the Hedgehog to this thing. It's nuts. There's a lot of things this thing can do that are very impressive. But to get people kind of interested in it, or to try and kind of showcase what it can do and what kind of games it can play back in the day, I feel that Space Invaders, especially this version of Space Invaders, is excellent. So yeah, hopefully we'll see you at the show there so you can experience this thing yourself. Thank you all so very much for watching. Have a tremendous day.